Welcome into a very special interview here on our REKAP YouTube channel. It's my friend Sonny Vaccaro. He's got a brand new book out, his memoir, Legends and Souls. Sonny was the guy who many people say saved Nike, because Michael Jordan is not Michael Jordan of Nike without Sonny Vaccaro. I'm a sneakerhead, Sonny. Besides being a dear friend of yours and your great wife, Pam, I'm a sneakerhead. I've got 40 pair of Air Jordans in my closet. I love them. Start right there and tell us how Michael Jordan became a member of the Nike family, and now it's Jordan Brand.
By accident, by complete accident. One of the biggest mysteries of my life, David, I'll tell to your audience. There was no way in the world that I should ever have been involved in even asking that question from Nike in 1984 of who should they sign, for their next, professional athlete. At that time in 1984, Nike was almost dead in the water. The only thing they had going for it was basically we had all the college teams, and that's why I was involved. And I ran camps across America for the kids who were going to be. So I was with Nike, but I never had anything to do with the professional side. They had signed athletes before, basketball players. They're, I can only say they were getting paid $25,000 or $50,000, to wear the shoe. That was also at the time, David, a lot of drugs in the NBA. A lot of athletes had troubles with that. The NBA wasn't like it is today. They didn't have, the finals were on tape delay. So I'm going into an environment that I didn't know I'd been invited to. Rob Strasser, who was running marketing then, invited me to a meeting with all the hierarchy, the people who made decisions at Nike. I never made a decision other than my lane, college basketball and youth basketball. And they were having a meeting on, they had $250,000 in their total budget for the athlete. When I went into the meeting, there were people there. Obviously, I knew their names. I had no social or professional contact with. They were different audience, for me. And Rob Strasser had all these names on, supposedly, it was going to be the board, the draft board, really, all the players in that class. And his question to everybody in that room was, well, gentlemen, we have $250,000. Who can we take? What athletes can we get? And hope and pray that they can help us sell shoes. Again, audience, other than selling through the colleges, Nike was going under. $250,000 was their total amount, David. So it come around, there were 6 or 7 people in that audience. And for whatever reason, Rob asked me last. Everyone said Charles Barkley. He was one of the greatest classes of all time. I mean, I think 4 or 5, Hall of Fame guy. So they were great players. And then they got to me and they asked me my question. And this is the answer to your question. I have no reason to believe in my life that if they would have told me this was going to be like, I may have researched somebody. The question was asked. It's like asking you a question on your show, and it's something that you have in your psyche, and you just give an answer to. It just comes out of your mouth. And I said, swear to God, give it to the kid. What kid? Michael Jordan from North Carolina. It sort of stopped there. Well, we can't take Michael Jordan. He's going to cost too much money. He's going third. He's going to Chicago. We can't give him all the money. And I said, in so many words, back to him, well, in my opinion, you're going to pick 3 guys. You're going to give them all $75,000 or whatever the hell you're going to give them. And they're all going to be good. But I think his kid moves. Why? David, as God is my judge, to your audience, Chicago, which is very personal for me, obviously. Okay, you're talking about Michael Jordan. I only remembered that because he made the shot that beat Georgetown. I was at the game that year. I was, and because of the past, Georgetown was one of Nike's leading colleges. John Thompson was one of my top. I was paying him as much money as I was going to give Michael Jordan, to be very honest with you at that time. When he made the shot, it broke my heart. I wanted Georgetown to win. I never would have seen or talked about Michael Jordan again if he'd have missed that shot. Swear to God. Now he makes it. Now I'm called to this meeting, 2 years later. That was his freshman year. He plays 2 more years. He doesn't win another national championship. He just plays at North Carolina. I never watched him. He asked me that question, and I said, give it to the kid. The only thing I can tell your audience, and this is gospel, okay, is in my psyche. I was told by a man more important to me about a couple of years ago. I had to get an answer. He said, in our psyche, in our mind, there are hidden thoughts that just disappear. Then all of a sudden, someone asks you a name of somebody or anything. You remember that car, whatever. And that's basically, he was not a doctor, but he was talking to me like a doctor. That thought was so strong in my psyche. I didn't know, I swear to God, that I was going to say that. I didn't know that question. And I said, Jordan. Well, after all the hoopla, that's why Michael Jordan even have a chance. Now, just for your audience now, I said this before, and I'm going to say it in front of one of my favorite on, because I have a connection to not only Michael. I ran the All-Star game there. I'm Chicago centric. I mean, there are a lot. There is no Michael Jordan. He would have been a great player. But David, to your audience, none of these other shoe companies were going to give him the deal and make a shoe after him. It was just going to be money. No one ever thought of naming the shoe, giving him a piece of the shoe. That never happens again with another company. Michael becomes Michael. He's still pretty good. He would have won 6 championships, all that. But he wouldn't have had Jordan Brand. And that's what the public sort of dismisses, and especially some in your audience who maybe aren't as old as I am, even you, young as you are, David. My point to you is history was made that day, and it'll live forever because Jordan will be remembered more. Somebody may be, the guy. If LeBron was this year, he may be the GOAT. We don't know what the hell happens, right? That's just an opinion. Mm-hmm. I know one thing. No one changed marketing like Michael Jordan. Nobody. That was history.
So let me ask you a question, because I played golf with Michael one day, and I said something to the effect about Adidas. And he's like, yeah, they effed that up. Because he wanted to wear Adidas. Is that true?
That was the gospel. If you watched Air, if any of your company, that was one of the true stories there. They wouldn't give in. They wanted to make sure he was part of the other 2 guys, the other 3 guys. That it was all team, and Converse was the same way. But Michael, to this, the last time I talked to him, that was Adidas. All they had to do was say yes, we'll do this, and they said no. So again, history has changed. That all the obstacles, David, were there for Michael to say no and for me to have a different life, but they said no. Converse said no. Billy Packer comes in and finally, after 3 months of trying to, convince Michael to do it, we sign him. And then the rest is history. That's the Jordan story. There's no other one. They can pretend all they want. That's how it happened.
So let's talk. You mentioned LeBron a little while ago, and we have this debate all the time. Obviously, here in Chicago, people are not LeBron fans. I respect the heck out of what an amazing player he is, but I also believe Michael is up here and LeBron is 2, 3. I was also a big Kobe guy. Wilt Chamberlain changed the game. Where are you on who the GOAT is of all time?
Well, I won't do that because I've always said, recently, that I go by decades. When you talk about Wilt or Alcindor, you can go through you can go every 10 years and you'll find 5 guys that are pretty damn good, and then you'll come down to one that's really, really good. So I can't do that. But I will say this to you. If you ask me to name a situation, Michael will live forever. If LeBron happens to win this championship, because of current day, because LeBron is a popular person also, he is also a celebrity. He's done more in marketing than anybody since Michael. If you want to, he just did something with the dolls, right? I mean, he has every once in a while he'll step into a hole, but he has a great way of taking his foot out of it. Okay, I would say they've got to talk about LeBron if they win.
As the GOAT.
As the GOAT. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes.
But go ahead. I'm sorry, David.
Just watching, and again, he's an amazing player. I mean, is he 1, 2, 3? I don't think he has the killer, I'm going to kill you like Michael and Kobe did.
Well, you don't place it that way to me. You asked me that question because I would say this right now, okay? My short stay with Kobe Bryant, because I was with him more personal because I started in high school, like I did with LeBron later on, okay? But he was before, okay? Kobe Bryant, since he was 15 or 16 when he first saw me at my camp, and he promised me next year he's going to be the most valuable player when he was only a junior. Then he lived on the same street, Pam and I. We were very close to Kobe personally and his family. Kobe Bryant was the killer in life.
Yes.
He was the guy that would have beat you up to win the game.
Yes.
That doesn't mean the other ones wouldn't, but Kobe would have. Everything was personal with Kobe, David. Everything was personal with Kobe. And the game was the most important thing to his life. God forbid, everything sad or everything. It's hard talking about him because he's not with us in a tragic day. But if you give me 10 seconds, I'll give you the best story. Can I dot that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, he was a rookie with the Lakers. Now, if you all remember, he struggled. He wasn't playing right away or whatever, but he played. He was a rookie. They had a very good team. Mm-hmm. They're in the playoffs, and it's the sixth game or the seventh game of one of the particular series before they went to the finals. And they got their butt kicked. And they was out of town. So I'm, watching the game and listening to the game, and Kobe's taking all these shots and all this stuff. So he mostly called me, especially after they lose, and said about the game. So his guy picked him up, and he's driving him from the airport to his home, which is, like I said, half a mile from our house. And I say, Kobe, what the hell were you doing with those shots all day? And he said to me, I'll never forget it to eternity as long as God damn it. They wouldn't shoot the ball. I kept shooting it. He didn't care who got mad at him. No one was making any shots. I think he took 11 shots that night in 5 minutes. So that was catchable. That was like, this kid didn't give a damn. And he didn't. He really didn't.
Did you know when he was coming out? Because I'll tell you a quick story. I was scouting for the Seattle Sonics. Then I went to the Pacers. My old boss with the Sonics, rest in peace, Gary Wortman, calls me. It's 1995. And he said, hey, are you going to see DePaul and Georgetown tonight at the Rosemont Horizon, now Allstate Arena? I said, I am. He said, can we go together? Will you pick me up at the airport? I'll fly in early. I want to go eat at Carson's Ribs. It's my favorite rib place.
Right.
You got it. I'll pick you up. It's like 1:30 in the afternoon. I pick him up at O'Hare. He gets in. He goes, God, what time does it open? I'm starving. I want to go eat there before the game. I said, we're not going. What do you mean we're not going? I'm taking you a game. It starts at 3:30. He said, a game on a Wednesday afternoon? Well, who's playing? If it's a goddamn high school game, I'm not going. High school kids can't play in the NBA. I said, we're going to a high school game. When you see this kid, you're going to say to me, okay, this can't be real. We drive into the city. We go to Farragut High School. We watch warm-ups. And he says, who in the F is that? Kevin Garnett. And he watched him play. And they had, I want to say, multiple number one picks. He said, yes, he won't be there when we're picking. That's how good that kid was. And then, of course, Kobe Bryant is a draft day trade. So when you saw Kobe, what made you think he's ready to go to the NBA?
I knew it from that. I didn't know it that day, but I knew it when he played at the camp the second year, because he come back and he was the best player at the camp. And there were 9 guys in there that played in the NBA in that game, in that year, nine of them, David. And I knew it. I knew it when he told me I'll be the best player. I always had this feeling, ladies and gentlemen, that he would be that kid that could do it. So going through the process of getting him to the Lakers was the hard part. Us knowing that he was never going to go back to Italy. I mean, we said that to a couple of teams and all that stuff. There was a possibility, but we knew then. And obviously, David, I must have known it because we offered him the most money ever offered a kid, millions of dollars, and we hired Joe to be before he went anywhere. So the logic was, I'm not going to give him millions of dollars to go to Italy to play.
Correct.
So we knew he was. I knew he was going. I mean, God, anything could happen, obviously, but that was one of the biggest gambles that we ever got involved in. But there was just no doubt. Maybe because I was around him more than LeBron, obviously that was true. And I was never around Michael until after we signed him and I traveled the world with him. But I didn't know him at 16 years old. And I knew Kobe that way. It's the hard thing talking about him. But the good thing about it, we'll never stop talking about Kobe Bryant.
No.
Isn't that wonderful? I mean, in a sad way, David.
It is. I still watch videos on Instagram of Kobe talking about his work ethic, motivation. And he's been gone now, and it's amazing how his legacy lives on.
Well, not only that, Mamba, whatever that is, right? That's like, the whole, it's everything about it is contagious. Now, you look at everything in that marketing way that you started the show with, David. Let's just understand something here. God, it's hard for me to talk, and please, people in the audience, forgive me, but I'm trying to help David and you guys understand. It's hard talking about it because he's not here, but it's amazing that we're talking about him because he's not here. I mean,
Correct.
That his legend, everyone else, thank God, is living. You see them every day. LeBron's playing and Michael's running race cars around the world. I mean, but you know that they are living in the life. Kobe can't speak for himself, can't talk for himself. He already made the speeches. He already did the things. That's what the amazing thing in my lifetime that I've witnessed with all the great athletes I've been around, David. He was a special person as far as competitiveness.
Let's talk about Michael, because as you said, you didn't really get to spend time with him at a young age. Once you guys signed him, I remember talking to him about it, and he said how close he was with you and what you mean to you and Pam. He mentioned Pam, what you guys mean to him and to his family. Take us inside that relationship, because correct me if I'm wrong, there was a moment, I think, when Rob Strasser, and you talk about it in your book, had a falling out with Phil Knight, that Michael thought about leaving Nike.
Well, that chapter is good. And, read the book, ladies and gentlemen, because this is the chapter, David, that no one knows. It was never talked about. We knew it happened. And that's why I did put it in my book, because I was there that day. I was there when it all happened. Michael was at a point now, and at that time now, he was getting a percentage, his 10 points or whatever it was. So he was earning money, but he wanted to have his own Air Jordan, which Air Jordan, the whole thing on that doesn't happen unless he was threatening to leave. And Strasser and they were buying, Peter Moore were buying Adidas America. So they were starting new as a new company. They left, they were gone for a couple of years. And they wanted to come in and put Michael in this situation and give him a piece of everything they were going to do. And I wasn't at the meeting when they discussed the money, but I went to the house after they played golf that day, and we sat down. And then this is what we presented to Phil Knight then, that Michael would get a piece, and it would be Air Jordan. Right now it later became that because his contract was now expiring, Dave. That's what your audience has to know. So he was going to be in that position in about 6 months. So we went through it. Phil thought about it, and eventually he gave in. It never happened, but as God is my judge, it's in the book. I mean, everything like that happened, and he would have left because he was that close to Strasser, and he was that, obviously, he was that close to Peter Moore. He designed the thing that swoosh is Peter and Michael forever at last. So he would have left if they would have had money. And I know what they said at that time. I was at the table. Well, we don't have $20 million to guarantee you, because that would have been the number even first. Rob knew what it was going to take minimum to take him to guarantee him over. It was more than that, but Rob, just starting with the Adidas, just say, I can't do this. We can't roll the dice. Knight will change his mind, and they did. And Air Jordan was born. Now he's a billionaire, and he deserves every penny of it.
What is your relationship like with him now? Because I've always loved being around him. I've always thought he's a first-class guy. I remember asking him, why do you always wear a suit to work? He said, because I'm going to work and I'm a businessman. And that's why I dress the way I dress.
David, my relationship to the last, Pam and I went to Europe with Michael. We spent 11 days touring Europe during the Gulf War. I mean, I slept in his home. I had a salute, from Comic Relief, a special in Chicago for Michael. He was on Saturday Night Live because that was part of the thing. I traveled with him. He was, outside of my family, obviously a part of my life that you can't explain. But as of today, it hurt me because in my book, you also read that there is a friction now, because basically I've been told by other people, Michael included, and certainly Phil Knight and Nike, and it's a big chapter in my book, where they sort of got amnesia to what really happened. And that hurts me, but I can't ever not have a deep love for him or respect. I'm not here in this respect. I think I'd have been successful, but I never would have been Sonny Vaccaro, the guy that signed Michael Jordan. And then a lot happened good for me after that too, David. But right now, I haven't seen Michael in a long time. If I saw him, I'd hug him like I always did. And just so, again, I want to point out to the book there, anybody that doubts the closeness, who in the hell could stay in an airplane for 10 hours and fly from Paris to Chicago on our way back to Europe and play gin rummy? And at the end of the thing, we were playing for a couple bucks every game, and I ended up winning. We landed in Chicago, and I was ahead of Michael. And instead of giving me the $5 or $10, whatever heck the number was, and I'm not going to say it with you, he took out the deck of cards we were playing with and signed it, Michael Jordan, on the deck of Ace of Spades. I have that signed thing. Those are experiences, Dave, that you don't have playing poker, playing that with Michael. And everyone knows that Michael likes to bet a little bit, whether it's golf.
Oh, yeah.
So the greatest point, Pammy's birthday, my wife Pam's birthday is the same day as Michael's. They used to send birthday cards to each other, Dave. So we were close, and it hurt that they got to try and, just change. All they had to do was tell the truth and go on with our lives. But that hurts me. But he was a signature point in my life after my family. There's no question about it.
You also spent time at other shoe companies.
Yes, two of them.
Tell me about Reebok and Adidas. Tell me about the leaving Nike. That had to A, be hard, B, going to the other places.
Well, I went to Adidas first because Rob Strausser and Peter Moore bought Adidas America. That's what I was telling you was going to happen. Uh-huh. They actually bought the rights to Adidas America. Uh-huh. So I'm doing other things. I'm representing a couple of players. I'm making a buck. I was doing a thing with Deke, a comic thing with some athletes. I was making a buck. I was good, and Pammy was very successful in doing her commercials. So we are okay financially. And then Rob Strausser calls me when they get the official thing done, and he calls me, and I'm somewhere. And he said, come to New York, fly to New York. We got something to talk to you about. He didn't tell me what, but get on a plane. So I went, whatever. And I go to New York, and he says, we just bought that. We want you to come with us. And I didn't know if I wanted to go back to Adidas and get back in there things again. I still kept my camp going, whatever, but I did a bit of budget and the round ball, the Dapper Dan. And then he said, very few people get a chance to climb the same mountain twice. Now, I go to Adidas. Rob Strausser dies 3 months after he buys it. So wow. Rob's the leader. Peter is the shoe guy. Peter becomes president. I stay there for a couple years. We signed Kobe. We signed Tracy. We got Jermaine O'Neal. We're doing pretty damn good. Tim Thomas. We're doing really, really good. So I did. We found our guy, right? We waited out. We got Kobe and all that sort of stuff. And all of a sudden, they lie to me, Adidas, on the LeBron thing. That whole LeBron thing was a setup. I don't know if it would have got him, but I promised him $100 million, $10 million a year for 10 years to his face, him and his mother in their hotel room in California. I laid the price up. I think Nike would have made a bid. but I would have held my credibility. I get to the room and Adidas lied to me. They made it 70 million and 30 million in like credits. Like if you do this, you do that. I was never more disappointed professionally in my life than that moment, because I didn't lie to them, but I misled them. I thought my company would back me. David, we lived in Santa Monica at that time, and we went to this big place to bring in the family, LeBron family. And I knew on the way up back home after that fatal meeting, and Pammy, I said, Pam, I got to tell you something. And I swear to God, she said, I know you're going to quit, aren't you? I quit. I knew that. I knew 2 hours after I left, I couldn't stay with Adidas anymore. So that's the Adidas saga. They lied to me. Nike, like, they fired me. So, and that, I go to Reebok. Paul Fireman treated me really well. I'm 3 years into a 5-year contract. We do good. I signed Sean Livingston as the first guy. And if Sean doesn't get hurt, he's an all-star.
Yeah, he's a great player from Peoria, Illinois.
Right. And then one day, 3 years in, we were going to get paid and all that sort of stuff. That's when I thought of, I can't do this anymore. I was 66 years old at the time. I made a good living. I said, we got to do, and that's when the Brandon Jennings started, and that's when it eventually goes to Eddie O'Bannon. Then my life does change. I'm now not employed, but I'm doing what I think in my lifetime I was meant to do, fight for these kids. The NCAA was horrible, and the rest of my story is all about the fight. And I'm proud. I'm more proud of Eddie O'Bannon and what everything we do with NILs. And you and your audience might disagree with me because it's chaos out there. But in case you don't give me a chance to say this right away, it's all because of the NCAA are big liars and phonies. So you can take me on the next question. Go ahead, David.
Okay, so the book is Legends and Souls, and he is an American original. He's my friend. He's Sonny Vaccaro with me here on our REKAP YouTube channel. So let me ask you about NIL and the Eddie O'Bannon. You bring in Michael Jordan, revolutionized the sneaker industry forever. Now you take on the Eddie O'Bannon crusade, and that has completely revolutionized college athletics forever. So tell me your thoughts. Jay Wright has said, I'm done. I'm out. He's gone. Tony Bennett, I'm gone. Nick Saban, I can't deal with this anymore. And I talked to two big-time coaches this year. One of them, I'm standing on the court, and he said, he was asked by my business partner, how are you able to evolve with what's going on? He said, evolve. I hate it. I don't have a choice, but I hate it. So you're the impetus of why all this happened, and I think you're right. Tell me your thoughts on the chaos now.
The hardest thing I have to live with right now is the people you're talking about, the people I know very, very well. I don't talk to them anymore, David. I'm not in the same world they are, and it hurt me. It made me not cry. I'm a grown man. But I just want to say to your audience in Chicago, which is one of the most knowledgeable audiences in the country, there's no question about that, is hypocrisy at its peak. Because they, for years, were paid, not that they didn't deserve what they earned. They were paid money that was given to them by these athletes with no rights at all. Mm-hmm. So for all these years, those coaches did the same thing that the athletes now have the chance to do. And the most sickening part of all this now is these coaches, the ones with all the moral things, and I'm not going to get into names because I personally want to forget the names, but we have this year, it was like a birthday present to Sonny Vaccaro and Ed O'Bannon. There's guys leaving before they were done with their team to go to another school. The same coaches we're talking about are bitching are now leaving to sign another contract with another school. They never had a way to transfer. They never had to worry about how much their wages were. And I'm all for that. I'm not against. They were my friends. I paid them millions of dollars. What are you going to do? Beat me over the head? They took the money. That was the only way that I even got into this game. Because I told Nike in 76, 77, pay the coaches. David, if I could have said pay the high school players, I would have. Because the next sentence was in this document, David, is this. I would have given it to the kids, but the coaches will pay them. They'll make the kids wear the shoe. And then I achieved what I wanted to achieve. The people go see the players, not the kids. The same in pros. Look what you just watched in pros. There's guys leaving and getting fired 2 days before the playoff starts. It's all about the damn players. The world exists. In Chicago, you know what Sonny Vaccaro is talking about. You know exactly what I'm saying. So to go to the coaches, David, I feel bad that I have to feel bad, because one of them should have said, at least one of them, you know what? I've been living on their backs for a lot of years, and they have. But the most important thing they should have said was this obscene company called the NCAA. They are the biggest liars. They hurt these kids. They lied to them. They said they were amateurs from day one. 100 years. All those years, David, that these kids didn't do nothing. And I know we're on a time limit here, and I appreciate you letting me talk. But let me say this again about the NCAA. Do you know, David, what I witnessed, because I've been so old and I watched so much of this college stuff? A lot of those kids we're talking about, we always thought, it stops the graduation, it stops this, it stops that, they have a chance. That's BS. Because the athletes we're talking about, a lot of the great athletes I've seen, especially in basketball, maybe weren't good students. A lot of those kids didn't get a degree when their college career was over, let alone their NBA career or NFL career. I mean, let's also be honest. There's only a few guys that go every year to the leagues. There's not like thousands, but there are thousands of kids, especially in football, David. Those kids, then they got life. You know, how many times, David, both of us have seen kids get, paralyzed for life playing football. This happened playing football. That happened, something else happened. I'm only saying to your public here, I would like one thing, the most important thing I can say to Chicago today is those kids have earned everything, and I don't give a damn how much confusion are. And those commissioners of those leagues and whoever runs the NCAA, I believe, I hope I'm alive, David, and you remember it if I die. I mean this sincerely. One day, Sonny Vaccaro told me that this college sports will be run by professional companies. Nike will have their own team. They'll have their own league. That will happen. They'll just sponsor them. What do you think the collectives is? Phil actually has his own collective now. The guy at the University of Michigan, his wife's the graduate. It'll all come down to individual.
Oh, you're talking about Larry Ellison.
Yeah, yes. I don't like bringing names. Thank you. That's who it is. But his wife graduated from Michigan.
Correct. That's how they went and got the quarterback.
Well, that's my point to you, David. But no one says anything. So I'm saying to you, let this happen. Let the corporations own the thing. Just take them over.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Here's my one problem as a former college coach.
Go.
When you have the quarterback of X school coming in right before the college football playoff semifinals going, yeah, I'm going to sit out unless you give me more money. There should be a contract. I'm going to pay you. And at the end of the year, we want to talk about something else. Have at it. Not where you're holding me hostage 2 days before we play for the national title.
No, don't say the holding me hostage. No, David, you're reflecting back to your coaching years. And those years were more poor. You were more pure because there weren't when you were running around with your guy from Seattle and looking at the kids and seeing Kevin and all that. It was a different world. They were able to go one and done maybe, or they right out of high school like Kobe. But what I'm saying to your question here, David, that all would be resolved. I can tell you, we appealed. We did. Ken Feinberg. If no one knows his name, they'll look it up. He's the man, the pay-czar for America. 9/11, Agent Orange. Ken Feinberg was working with the O'Bannon case with the lawyer. He presented, because I was on the committee. We had 7 people, black, white, women, men and women, okay? Any color you want. And Ken proposed a settlement. I know this because about 50 feet away from me in my desk, there was a contract that a letter he sent to the 5 commissioners and the president of Notre Dame. And on this letter, he said, why don't we meet and come to some conclusion? The president of the NCAA, the guy from South Carolina, wrote a letter back, and I have a copy of it. He said, we see no reason to meet. They could have done this because Ken Feinberg's answer was the right answer 10 years ago. His answer was, why don't we make a contract now? Why don't we make a deal with the schools? Why don't we say we're going to pay them? In the world that I lived in, when I first thought it could happen, I honestly thought if the kids got 25%, because Ken had a percentage, I don't know exactly what it was, of if the basketball team got 100,000, then the kids should get $25,000, and you split it among the 10 guys or whatever. There would be something you did financially work out. They get a piece of what the shoe companies or Pepsi-Cola, whoever is sponsoring the athletic teams, just not the shoe company. So there's a lot of money here.
Formula.
Yeah. Yes. So it could have been done, Dave. So to answer you, I hope that they do that. There's nothing wrong with it, but they're up a creek now, though, because the horse is out of the cage.
It's the Wild West now.
It is the Wild.
And I've told the story. When I was a college coach, this is back in the 80s, I had a player come in to visit. He commits. He before he visited, he said, I'm in. He wants to see the campus. I pick him up at the airport at O'Hare. It's 20 below out, and he has no winter coat. He's in a T-shirt and jeans. And I said, where's your winter coat? It's 20 below out there, man. He said, I don't own a coat. He said, I come from nothing. My salary was $4,250 a year before taxes. I take him to Burlington Coat Factory. I take my credit card. I'm like, I'll figure it out later. It's my player. I got to take care of him.
You're right. You should have.
A hat, gloves, and a coat. It's not 3 days later. The athletic director needs to see you, and he's not happy. I'm getting reprimanded because I took care of a kid who was freezing. Mm-hmm. Now we've gone completely the other way, and it's the Wild West out there.
It is, Dave, but it's all because of the greed of the NCAA.
No question.
I mean, that's the whole problem. And I listen to the president, and he's next, he's the governor and all that stuff. I mean, all these political people, and I'm not being, facetious or all that. I'm just telling you what I witnessed. I went there when they all talked about what they could not do for the players and not what they can. David, there was a school in the 90s, okay, whenever I first started fighting this fight, okay, way before O'Bannon, and we were doing something, and I had to research something. So we went to a university, a major university. In fact, this school has won football championships and all this sort of stuff, right? I mean, they're still prevalent, basketball. So we did a thing on the academics. So we sent the person who was investigating, and she came back and said, Mr. X, he said, let me tell you what the main course is for the athletes. What is it? It's housing. Housing. 98% of the athletes in that particular, on the football and basketball, 98%, that means like about 100 people now. Over the course of the semester, it was a 2-semester, what you can tell, they took housing. Well, I don't know what that was. They didn't certainly have enough money to buy a house, but I'm saying academics was sickening in those years, David, sickening. And that's not right either.
That isn't. Sonny, I got to let you go, but the book is called Legends and Souls. It is an incredible read. And as I said to you, without you, Nike probably doesn't exist. It certainly isn't what it is today. There is no Jordan brand. And without you, there is no NIL. There is no Ed O'Bannon case that you championed that cause. You're a legend, my man. The title is perfect.
Well, thank you for that. And tell my friend, Miss Monaldi, I said hello. Okay. And I'll have a pizza on him. So,
absolutely.
But this has been a pleasure.